Conley, Vice President of Operations for NineStar. That puts me in charge of electric, telecom, water, wastewater. I know a little about everything and a lot about nothing. So this guy right here is Alan Martin. He is the manager of water and wastewater. He is definitely the brains of that operations. So I'm going to turn that over to him, and he will kick it over to Aaron Crow from our QAW, and we'll get on with it. So thank you.
Good morning. So I'm going to give you kind of a background on the particular area that we're going to be talking about this morning, which is Sugar Creek Utilities, and then the 200 West corridor down to our Philadelphia wastewater treatment plant. So that'll be covered more by Aaron, what the actual project is. So I'm just going to go over kind of what we have operationally today at Sugar Creek. So if you want to open your handouts, this first screen here is of the lower campground, which is where the wastewater treatment plant at Heartland actually sits. So as you can see, when it rains, that area becomes inundated with quite a bit of water. Unfortunately, the only place for all that rainwater to go is through our collection, or his collection system at the campground, and then through our wastewater treatment plant. So a normal day, we're probably putting between 40 to 50,000 gallons a day through that treatment plant. It's capable of treating 60,000 gallons a day. We have maxed out at 320,000 gallons in one single day. So clearly it's beyond capacity with the I&I issues that we experience. And so we're working on certain things. If, flip to the next page. That's a couple homes there in Riley Village. Riley Village also has quite a bit of I&I issues. We're working on trying to obtain RD and SRF funding to fix the collection system in Riley Village, which will go a long way in helping with the I&I to the plant. But then there's also still the remaining piece at the campground, because all that collection system is owned by the campground. There's only so much that we can do. And as far as the plant itself, we've made quite a bit of operational changes to it. When we purchased it 6 years ago, almost, it was under an agreed order. We've worked with IDEM in making as much as we can do to try to get it close to meeting NPDES limits. It still violates. When you have a 60,000 gallon a day plant that takes in 250 plus on days that it rains, you're gonna violate. There's just nothing you can do. So a big piece is gonna be from fixing that collection system in Riley Village, but it's gonna continue to have problems, and really the only option, because that plant is landlocked, is to take it offline and get it down to our brand new facility in Philadelphia. This next page here, that's a picture of the lift station. So that is a 35-foot deep lift station that is less than 5 feet from overflowing. As you can see with how clear that water is, that is not waste, that is all groundwater. But like I said, we have to treat it just like it's waste. So, chemical costs go through the roof because it's dosing based. So when there's more flow, we spend a heck of a lot more money on chemicals. The pumps frequently go down because the situation with the mains, it lets in a lot of roots, a lot of debris, causes issues with pumps. So operationally, this facility it takes up the bulk of our time. And then that sheet there, I kind of hit on everything. It's operationally, there's just nothing else that we can do. We just kind of have to limp that place along until we can get this project taken care of. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Aaron to kind of just go over what that project actually entails.
Sure. And then just kind of teeing off, like was already said, I'm Aaron Crow with our QW. We've been the wastewater engineer for NineStar, and I've been working on this project now for coming up on 3 years. So just kind of I don't know, worth highlighting that there's been a lot of funding methods pursued and a lot of conversations about just how to get water from one location to the other to get treated. The other thing too to talk about with this project is, this is it's a fairly extensive scope, as I'm going to go through. NineStar is already pursuing funding for another project in Riley Village that Alan was talking about, and I'm trying to be careful not to conflate two projects, but the reason we're pursuing funding with, I'm pursuing on behalf of NineStar from you all, is that this Riley Village project that Alan mentioned, those gravity sewers, will already place a financial burden on those 84 or so homes in Riley Village, plus all the campground residents. So that's kind of some of the purpose behind us coming to you guys for this. Those sewers too, and I just have to say it, I'm getting off track, but those sewers are like built directly under homes. So from like a risk and liability standpoint, it started as a campground and then became permanent, right?
Yeah, we looked into all options to try to fix what's there, and we just went through everything, and unfortunately, it's complete replacement.
Yeah. So that brings us to, okay, we got some of the rainwater hopefully out of the gravity sewer system, but like Alan said, we need to figure out some way to get it from point A to point B. And this page that I'm on just has the map here, generally shows you the project scope. Up in the top right, there's a little call out here, and sorry, the text is a little small, but it says Sugar Creek Lift Station. The goal is there's what's called a raw pump station that just kind of pumps water into the Sugar Creek treatment plant. The goal is to just turn that into a lift station and reroute flows via force main or just pressure flow down to the 200 West corridor. There's a combination vault there too. The goal is we kind of have 2 points that are going to be meeting together in that combination vault. And I think if we haven't said it already, this project serves a dual benefit. It benefits Riley Village and us not putting extra cost burden on them from a rate standpoint, but it also supports economic growth to the north. And that's kind of what that County Road 300 lift station is intended to do. So we're kind of, addressing economic development with County Road 300 and existing conditions, low income families we're addressing with that Sugar Creek lift station. So they combine via force main, that's all just pressure flow, and then they're routed to about County Road 100. It's a dashed line to represent the force main, and then gravity sewer south of County Road 100. And I said economic growth for County Road 300 lift station, but I'm looking at my notes here. I also want to call out that the goal is to serve Mohawk as well, which is an unincorporated area to the north. And I don't know necessarily the income level of that area, but there's some existing conditions that we're trying to pick up as well, some existing homes. So anyway, the project is routed to the Boulders lift station down south there at the bottom left of that image, and then pumped via force main again to that Philadelphia wastewater treatment plant. And so, as engineers, and I mean obviously important to the utility too, anytime we do design, our goal is to how do we get the most bang for the buck? How do we keep capital costs low, O&M costs low, which is why we want to demo the Sugar Creek wastewater treatment plant. But one of our goals with this project, rather than expanding the whole Philadelphia plant, the goal is to put in essentially like a little EQ basin. So something to just handle greater than expected peak flows and kind of defray the cost of expanding that Philadelphia plant. So that's not part of the request, I guess is what I'm saying.
So to kind of hit on that,
yeah.
The plant as it exists today, the new Philly plant, is capable of taking in these flows from Sugar Creek. It's just we had to change a little bit at the headworks just to accept that larger diameter pipe that's coming to it.
What's the design flow for the new plant?
The Philly's peak is 180,000 a day.
What's the long-term plan for design flow long-term with expansion?
It's capable of 5 million a day.
Yeah, after full build out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And because it's modular, you can grow into that.
Right.
Moving on to the next slide, not much changed in terms of an exhibit, but wanted to kind of re-highlight the project cost. Focusing again on the sewer side, about $7.1 million. Something that I wanted to highlight, and Alan's already said it a couple times, but there's a lot of chunks to this project, and we've been discussing those different chunks for the past 3 years. So we're NineStar and RQW on their behalf are partnering already with rural development and SRF, State Revolving Fund, to fund that gravity sewer piece up in the Riley Village neighborhood. So we're trying to, again, look at all avenues of funding to make this project happen, because it's very much needed. And then I noted here that the goal is to also partner with the county for additional funds as well. And I'm sure NineStar can share a little bit more about those conversations. But okay, finally the schedule. The goal is actually this month to be submitting permits. So part of the design process, this may be really maybe over-explaining, but the design process is generally we design to 100% or 90% of the design, and then we submit to IDEM for permits. And usually it's a 90-day turnaround is what we generally anticipate. So we're planning on submitting that into this month, and then kind of in the interim, hoping to get some notice from SRF on that gravity sewer piece. That's August, and then switching back to that 200 West project in October, hoping to get an approved permit. And again, that whole 90-day time window that I'm talking about, that accounts for them getting comments back to us revising our plans, and getting stuff back to IDEM. And then we'd be able to bid in November, with a notice of award being given out just a month later in December, and construction hopefully can complete in March of 2024. I am aware, and maybe, well, I guess correct me if I'm wrong, that I think some of this ready money is through ARPA. Is that right? Okay, so we're well within timeline to commit funds by the end of 2024, and we're beating the we're beating that deadline to spend all the funds by the end of 2026 easily. So more than 2 years ahead of that schedule. So I think that's it for the proposed project.
Let me ask for clarification. What is the current arrangement or obligation between NineStar and Riley Village
As far
in terms of servicing there?
So they are currently our members. And so when we purchased that utility, we went on a fact-finding mission to figure out what are areas that we need to address. Like Aaron said, we spent 3 years now figuring out the best method of taking care of that situation for that neighborhood.
That's 81 households, plus the campground.
Correct.
It's co-op owned and operated. So it is NineStar.
Yeah.
So the total project cost of over $7 million, I guess how much has been secured to date, and what's the funding request from this group? If we are able to allocate funds.
I want to clear something up on that. The
Yeah.
last time I submitted information to the group, I put the amount as a little over 9 million, I believe. Is this 7 million just for the main, and where did the $9 million
Yes.
come from?
Yeah, the big difference there from the 9 to 7 is the expansion of the Philadelphia wastewater plant.
Okay.
So that's the point that I was bringing up, that we were able to kind of, since submitting that to the corridor, we're able to kind of add in that EQ component and not have to expand the plant further.
Will these line sizes be future-proofed for 5 MGD?
Yeah, well, they're future-proofed upwards of 3 MGD. I'm trying to remember the exact number, but the phase 4 build out plus, I think there was like an additional phase, is what we designed to. So the fun of accommodating for future growth is you never know where that growth is going to occur,
Right.
how quickly, and so it's always a balance of, okay, do we put in these giant lines that then can't meet design requirements, right? Like 2 feet per second, or
Yeah, totally understand.
yeah.
It's a good thing you do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you engineering, or what's your background?
I was public works director before town manager.
Okay.
We
Oh, okay.
own a lot of utilities.
Yeah.
How does it affect Cumberland if at all?
It's right up against our sewer territory. 200 is our eastern boundary of our sewer utility territory. But, I mean, it shouldn't have real, true impact on us anytime immediately.
Yeah.
5 MGD may at some point.
And yeah, it's been a heck of a time with the design side. Just, I'm going into the weeds here just a little bit, but those are, our design now has dual force mains. The goal there being able to accommodate initial build out in one of the force mains, and then kind of full build out in dual, so. Again,
How does, no, I don't know if I should answer that.
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Look, real quick, Randy, did you get your question answered?
No.
I didn't think so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know, we're trying to get some of the ARPA money from the county that they received. There's been numbers thrown around, there's been no guarantees, so that, with that money, whatever that is, will be allocated to this project, as well as if we can get some of the ready dollars here. If not, NineStar is prepared to, you know, we're gonna have to kick in some of our own dollars, which we're not afraid to do, but it puts a big burden on our membership. We've spent over $10 million in the last 2 to 3 years on water and wastewater infrastructure, just ourselves. So to say what has been secured, that's a great question. I don't know that I can answer that with a dollar number.
Has there been any formal process to that, or just conversations, like has anything, public conversations, like within county council or commissioners, like has there been?
You know, the conversations are there. I don't know that it's been a formal.
Well, that's what I'm asking, is anything formalized and
An
public?
amount has not been formalized, the commissioners did do a letter, of commitment, and when we applied for other funds, the county has, voiced their commitment on that. And I think what you're trying to say, the RD funds and the SRF funds that are being pursued are for the local collection and not for the line, because the local collection needs to be addressed first.
Right.
So hopefully that answered your question. I know I danced around that dollar number because, to be blatantly honest, I don't have a number.
So are the commissioners committing to a funding gap after contingent on SRF funds and stuff?
Well, I don't want to put Bill on the spot, so let's not put Bill on the spot. But the conversations we have had have been, about 6 million. The rest, to my understanding, and you do not have to comment, will be going to other projects and, some nonprofit funding.
So how much is the ready request?
How much do you have?
5 million.
I would like it all.
Love your honesty.
Does this also reflect the cost of connecting the Riley Village collection system to the line?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess tentatively, I'm throwing this in, because they're on the building side, I'm on the find some grants side. At this point, it would be 1.123 million.
There you go.
Any amount over 6 million. We've had very solid conversations with the county, and we don't foresee that going awry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How much of that would you anticipate being residential growth versus commercial or industrial growth, if everything was built out?
I could show you a land use map. Would that be helpful to kind of explain?
Is it comparable to the county comp plan land use map, or?
We haven't we developed that land use map before I think Vanderwall got,
Okay.
And with the way that the sewer territories are split up.
Yeah.
Aqua starts at 300 west,
Yeah.
south of 70, you guys start at 400 west, so the majority would be residential.
yeah.
Bill, is the county prepared to provide street service and parks and all kinds of actual quality of life amenities to that much residential growth?
Well, this is just me speaking, I can't speak for the other two commissioners, but I would say as that grows, and Mohawk may have never thought about it, but they'll probably become an
Incorporated.
municipality, and then it makes sense to turn it over to the municipality, which the municipality will be able to handle that a lot better than the county would.
There's been obviously similar situations around Greenwood and Southport where you have all these people that want to be incorporated but haven't been able to because they want the services, so that would be my concern. There's thousands and thousands of people down there trying to get incorporated because they have no services through the county that they would like.
Randy, you have a couple questions.
Yeah, given the fact that you've got sort of multiple projects, and like say you're going through rural development, SRF, so, the I&I problem, which is pretty dramatic, I'm assuming you're trying to get that fixed up in the village before you ever get to the transmission line coming down to it.
Exactly.
So, with that much I&I though, where you gonna send the groundwater?
Keep it out, right?
Well, you gotta get it, I mean, you put it to the creek, but the creek's backed up, that's why you're getting an I&I in the first place.
Mhm.
It's kind of a circular argument.
Well, they're sealing out the infrastructure to keep it out of the sanitary, so the water's still gonna be there, it's just not gonna make it to their plant. So it'll be more
Right, but the point
standing.
being though, how, you get that much water, you're gonna flood the creek again. It's gonna get
Yeah.
fixed.
There's certainly a stormwater issue there, but we
Yeah.
handled.
Development will have to alleviate that long term.
So, but then, as far as you said, going from, to get to the ultimate build out of 5 million gallons per day, that's where you're talking about the dual force mains.
Yeah, the goal is to handle, you're going from existing flows just from Sugar Creek, right, with this project, that's all you'd really start with, to, and we're designing our infrastructure a little less than that 5 MGD, that 3 MGD number.
So the SRF and rural development is all that stuff up front, trying to get the I&I and taking care of that.
Yeah.
The ready request is really about the force main down 200.
Exactly. It's like we're addressing everything in the neighborhood from an I&I perspective, from RD, SRF. Transporting it down to Philadelphia is where we come to you guys.
And how much is that part of it? Is that the 7 million?
Yeah, for the ready request, or the ready project.
Okay, so that other number is.
Not even factored in. That's
That's
another
what
2 million-ish number.
Okay.
How many linear feet do you guys slip lining? Or
Yeah, well, a lot of it's just gonna be brand new, but, there's gonna be, I mean, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It's essentially like,
just what area?
yeah.
It's hard to.
I know.
read this map at all.
So it's essentially that, you see all those like lot lines for Riley Village
Yep.
on the, like ending on that eastern side, so it almost looks like a upside down candy cane. Everything east of there to the Sugar Creek plant pretty much is going to be slip lined, is the goal.
East of Riley Village or including Riley Village?
East of Riley Village to the Sugar Creek plant, so I think it's around 1,000 linear feet.
What size is that line, do you know off the top of your head?
It's 12 inch.
There you go.
It's 12 inch?
And then everything inside of Riley Village will be brand new.
Okay.
Right now, it's either behind or
Yeah.
underneath homes, it's gonna be with depth of street.
Right,
Right.
so you pretty much have to.
Yes, yeah, because again, when you start with a campground and then all these, permanent homes get built over top of it, it's like, are you gonna try to rehabilitate a sewer line right under somebody's
No.
home?
What is the status of those homes? I mean, the picture you have in here looks pretty rugged.
Well, and I thought that was a funny
They
point.
are all occupied.
They're occupied, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they meet code?
That is not for me to decide.
I guess the point that I would make from that is I grabbed those photos off of a realtor's website. So if that's the best that a realtor can pull up, you can generally imagine what the rest of the neighborhood looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had, for those of you that are on the steering plan for the county comp plan, there was a conversation about affordable housing in Hancock County, and that maybe we didn't wanna risk that, it wouldn't look good. You know, that same day I went out and toured Riley Village and the campground, and it was like, well, we have, low income housing in Hancock County, and it's in horrible condition.
Yeah.
This is where our low income housing is, and the campground is even worse than this. I mean, you have people in campers who have built sheds next to their campers, and it's not meant for permanent occupation, but they are there. If you wanna see where our low-income people living in Cook County, this is a very prime example. It's a very underserved area. It makes Mohawk look really nice. And I'm not saying anything bad about Mohawk, but we know that the homes there cost less.
And this is a co-op, so it's, how long has it been co-op? Do you really know?
How long has NineStar been involved?
NineStar's a co-op,
Oh.
Riley Village is not.
Okay, so they're just individual.
Yes.
And they're all owned, there are no renters in here with landlords that own the.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Seems like there's another shoe that has to drop here someday, but
Right.
yeah, it looks pretty bad.
I don't know if there's any consolidation type plan for those parcels or remediation. I mean, obviously that wouldn't be NineStar, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, when we purchased that facility, we agreed that we were gonna provide that service. And we're still committed to that, but the burden will be on them to, if we had to put all the burden on them, there's no way they could afford it at all, because you'd be $150 a month for a sewer bill.
But you needed a station on that part of the county though. Is that
So-
really the drive?
If you guys collect all your funding, will rates stay the same?
I think we're gonna have to look at rates at some point to get everybody on the same rate platform. There's been discussion of that, but we're trying to do everything we can do, up front.
What's the difference in the rates currently?
Once it's tied in, they'll be absorbed into the overall co-op's rate, which is $65.83, and they pay 47 something a month now, flat rate.
So their bill would go up $20 a month, basically.
And that's to address the Riley Village, that's the gravity sewer project that will get them up to that $65. So if it needed to be, if a part of this project, this Ready project had to be funded by rate increases, it's on top of that $65.
Right.
Yeah. It was when we ran the numbers originally, yeah, it came out to be over $150 a month. If it was gonna be completely rate funded.
Is that targeted for that area or for the whole co-op?
That was all the numbers. He had you
With Earl, you're
absorb
saying?
all of it.
Yeah, originally he was anticipating, that's system-wide, including the anticipated growth from like planned developments.
Okay.
How many sewer connections does NineStar currently have?
Can't be very many.
110.
How many are here?
There you go.
Yeah.
We're kind of the campground is 1, so 85.
Any other questions? We're coming up on 30 minutes.
Carol, did your question get answered?
Yeah. About the purpose of the
That's
acquisition.
what I was asking initially, that initial arrangement, or initial agreement, your obligations were there.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming in. If there's any further follow-up questions that come out of today, I'll communicate back with you.
Sure.
Thank you.
And as it is, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.